Hello, friends. I have a confession to make. I've seen the light. I've been away a long time. I'm back now, and, well, in the ensuing months, I want to make this statement. I believe in dog. Yeah, that's right. Dog, not God. And let's really break this down, why I believe in dog and not God. Well, first of all, I can prove that dog exists. There's a picture right here. That's me and mine hanging out here at the Free Thought Library. So I know he exists. But besides the fact that I know he exists, dogs are way better than gods, and certainly better than Yahweh. The Bible recounts Yahweh's wrath and punishment, like in the story of Noah. Genesis 6:13. But our beloved dogs are symbols of forgiveness and unwavering loyalty. While the Lord in the Bible demands worship and obedience, Deuteronomy 6:13, coincidence? I think not. A dog asks for nothing except for love and treats and scratches, but pretty much nothing, and offers unconditional affection in exchange. The fact that dog is God spelled backwards signifies the turning of divine harshness into a source of boundless love and forgiveness. The most compelling reason I believe in dog, however, is the simple fact that I can prove that he exists, like in that photograph I just showed you. But I'll tell you what, if you can get me to counter my belief in dog instead of God, well, why don't you give ahead and call us, because the show is about to start. Well, hello, everyone. Today is June 2nd, 2024. I am your host, Johnny P. Angel, and joining me today is Secular Rarity. How are you doing?
Hey, brother, I'm doing great, man. I'm excited, as always, to be back on the show. I warned the crew beforehand that because I was not in the main hosting role, I had nothing to keep me in line. And so we don't know how long this show will go today, folks. Could get canceled in the next 20 seconds. Yeah. You never know what's coming out of my mouth. Yeah. But I'm really excited to just be here with you, brother. I haven't seen you in forever, it feels like. You've been running around and doing all kinds of amazing things. So what the heck have you been up to, man? Tell everybody at home.
I've been soaring with the eagles, and I've been slithering with the snakes, and I've been everywhere in between.
Good places to be. Yeah, good places to be.
Been walking to and fro across the surface of the earth.
Good, man. Good. That's.
But I've also always been here. I just haven't been on the air because no one's ever really gone.
Right. You're all around us. You're in our hearts. Yeah. You're in our thoughts. You're here with us, even if you're not physically present with us. Right.
When you get Desi hot Indian food and you're grasping for that glass of water and you're thinking you might want milk, first of all, don't do it. It doesn't help. But second of all, there I am in your midst. Yes. And when you're taking a stroll in the dark and you kick the curb edge hard, I'm there with you.
Yeah. And in the morning time, when off in the distance, you see a faint fog and what seems to be a very, very calm and charming figure off in the distance. Well, there Johnny is in your midst.
Yeah, but there's lines of distortion, and wait till you get closer and you'll see that's me, and
This is so bad. How have they let us keep going, man? This is terrible.
I'll stop it now, and I will say that the Atheist Experience is a product of the Atheist Committee of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And I know you know this, but I want to tell people at home that we have a question of the week. We had one from last week, and we got a new one coming up. So last week's question for the Share Your Experience was we asked you, wrong answers only, what was God's motivation to flood the earth? And so we got top 3 answers right here, okay? And I will read them, and I want to hear what you have to say about that. Number 3, from Serge Hitchenko 3659, God flooded the earth because he wanted to see Ken Ham beclown himself, pretending that a pair of 19-ton brontosauri fit on a wooden boat.
I think that's right. I think that's right, Serge. That really shows the foreknowledge that the all-powerful God has. And I think that's good. God knew how stupid people like Ken Ham would speak about this in the future. And he's just best joke of all time, God.
Shrunk him down. It's easy. He used magic to shrink him down. He put him in stasis. He did all these things. Anything is possible with God.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you can't. Haven't we found dinosaurs in amber? That's what they just put them in amber.
They put him in amber.
Yeah.
9 Princes in Amber? That's a book I read recently. I don't remember how many princes there were, but they were in amber, and that was a pretty good story.
You need a lot more than that for dinosaurs.
9 million dinosaurs in amber, and then he re-expanded their sizes.
Seems right to me.
Easy answer. All right, number 2, winged past. God flooded the earth because he was playing The Sims for the first time. He built a pool and deleted the stairs.
Yeah. That can happen. I can tell you that, unfortunately, sometimes in that building process, you don't always, you get your people in, but you don't always think about getting them out, Yeah, I could see that.
And you might ask, well, how did he make that mistake? He turned God mode off.
He did.
I never saw that. I didn't see that until just now, and I made that up. I'm sorry. Number 1.
God,
Number 1.
Yeah.
Mental nuendo. What was God's motivation to flood the earth? He didn't mean to, but accidentally stopped up the toilet after a bad decision to eat the entire Chipotle burrito bowl.
We've all been there. Sometimes your eyes are bigger than your stomach, and your colon is bigger than the toilet. So we've all been there.
Can God eat a burrito so uncooperative, unmutual with his gastrointestinal system?
I think if God were real, diarrhea wouldn't be. Is that a fair?
No, I disagree. Again, I'm with Ken Ham on this one. Diarrhea teaches us humility.
Really?
Yeah.
How to be better Christians by suffering as Jesus suffered.
Yeah.
He probably pooped himself up there. I'm just gonna say, just because I know, but I'm off the rails today. I don't have
folks.
any,
We have calls. We're not delaying for calls. It's been a while since we had a chance to do a show together. All right. Well, anyway, those are the people who won. Thank you.
Great.
The prompt for this week: why do people really hate atheists?
Oh.
And SR, what do you got?
Well, that is tough. And I think ultimately, I could go kind of silly with it, but I'm going to leave that up to our wonderful viewers. I'm just going to go matter of fact, and I'll say it like this: that people always hating on the people that are right. And that's just what it is, they get so salty about it because they're wrong. And that's why they hate us, guys. Oh. They hate us because they ain't us.
Oh, shoot.
As one philosopher once said.
I'm gonna go with a boy named Sue argument. This world is rough, and if a man's got to make it, he's got to be tough. So, and I knew I couldn't be there to help you along. And so they hate us to toughen us up because we get mean or die. So here we are. Right. Anyhow, we're not mean. We're ready for our first call, and we're going to be real nice like. All right, so I'm thinking let's take Moses.
Let's do it.
Moses is a he, and he's also a him, and he's out of Florida. And Moses says, unlocking the truth of God in everyday life and how you find him if you search. Okay, Moses, right. You're on the Atheist Experience with Secular Rarity and Johnny P. Angel. How do you unlock the truth of God in everyday life?
Mm-hmm.
Please explain.
Hello, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, pretty good. How about you?
Yep.
Awesome. Doing wonderful. All right, I'm gonna just jump straight into it this time.
Do it.
All right. So, as atheists, would you guys say that you guys even believe in love or experience something as simple as love?
Yes, of course. Moses,
Yeah.
please. Do you think that we're from planet Zorkax and we don't
No.
have normal human
okay.
feelings?
Yeah.
Of course we love.
Okay.
I sometimes get the hiccups too. I don't know if that's next, but yeah.
Yeah. We're
Yeah.
just like you, except we don't
Wonderful.
accept that a God exists. That's it. Just like you.
Okay. That's wonderful. So,
That's all right.
if I told you that I didn't believe in love and I thought you were just making it up so you can feel good about yourself, how would you prove to me and your viewers that you have love inside of you and you can prove that love exists?
I could demonstrate to you various relationships that I have had with people, currently have with people, all of the tangible things that have been done for that or record that. So there's video evidence of me hanging out with friends, there's pictures and so forth. I can show you the things that those people have made for me. I can talk to you about how many years we've spent together knowing each other. I can then also walk you through an immense amount of stories from generations of people that have never met each other and couldn't possibly have met each other. And their stories coincide very well as we can now do all this really fun stuff with like science and medicine. We can kind of like, I'm going to say it's silly just for the sake of it, but we can kind of like look in your brain a bit. And we can see some stuff that then very much correlates to regularly attested to feelings by people on a regular basis, to the point that you can actually make predictions. Not having spoken to these people, you can take a scan of their brain, see certain activity, and then go, that person would probably say they were feeling love in that moment. And then when asking them, surprisingly, we're right more often than not. So like, that's just a start, man. That's not even like the whole kit and caboodle.
Right. But do you see how that's just an assumption that you can't jump to, but it's not necessarily showing me that that's love?
No, if you're taking that level of skepticism, I don't know how you called in today. If you're taking that type of radical skepticism for absolutely everything and being consistent, I don't know how you get out of bed in the morning. Yes, there are certain assumptions like anything else in the world exists except for me. But that is an absolutely nonsensical way to live your life. You cannot live your life in that solipsistic understanding of the world.
But so why do you get to apply that thinking when it comes to God?
Because it isn't even close to that level. Like there's so much information out there that refutes the various God claims out there. I am not the person that has to define my God. You do. And when you define your God for me, right. and I'm saying you in the broad sense, right? Not you specifically, Moses. I feel like you and I have always had good chats. But when a believer describes their God to me, they say, this is what my God is like. We have lots and lots of evidence that directly refutes those claims at worst, right? At the best for the believer,
sure.
we just don't have any reason to accept those claims. So it's like, well, yeah, that's why I can do it. If, however, we start investigating the claim that you are the only existence in all of reality and I'm just a figment of your imagination, well, that's the end of the conversation, isn't it? Because you're the only thing in existence and now you're just talking with yourself. So I already agree with you, right? So we have to make certain very basic assumptions to move on.
Okay, that is fair. So, but is it also? It's funny because the Bible clearly describes God being love.
Okay, let me.
You clearly believe in.
So the Bible describes God as being love. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So
yes.
That's a bit of an oversimplification, and also I would say, wouldn't you agree? It's under-inclusive of the attributes of God that we learn about in the Bible, right? God is love, it is said, but God is also retribution and vengeance and demanding. And all of those love is patient, love is kind qualities that we know from that passage do appear to be contradicted in the character of God. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with you, but if you can understand the Bible in the spiritual sense, then you could see that if we understand that God is love and accept that truth, then we can understand why God has to necessarily be a wrath, because wrath is what we throw on ourselves when we decide not to accept the truth of what love is.
Yeah, Moses,
right? So if you don't
really...
believe in...
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought. I have something to say.
So, okay, so like the whole concept of hell, right? So if you tell your mind there is no God, if you tell your mind there is no love, you're automatically putting yourself in a world of hate, in a world of hell, in a world of a fiery wrath. That's the whole concept of you instantly prison yourself. You no longer have eternal love, aka eternal life, when you don't believe in Jesus, when you don't believe in Christ in your mind.
Okay, Moses.
You instantly place yourself into hell.
Moses, gosh,
Yes,
it's been a while since I've done a show. I haven't heard this, pardon me, crap in such a long time. So forgive me for being rusty. But what is loving about a believe in me or you go to hell forever? What's loving about that?
Okay, so you might have misunderstood what I was saying, right? You're thinking of hell as a physical place that we all go to. If we don't do this, if we do one sin, if we're a bad person.
So you don't think hell is a real physical place like that?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, right, Moses?
Is that right, Moses? You don't think hell is a real place?
No.
Okay, it's just like a state of mind. It's just like a
Yes, it is a state of mind that you automatically enter when you say, I do not believe in love. I do not believe in God, right? I do not believe I can be free from this hell, this world, right?
So let me jump in for just a second, because there's two quick things. One, I want to go back to something you said just a second ago that I think is really important. And I think once you hear it again, you'll say, oh no, okay, not really. And then the other one is just that real quick. So I'll do that one first. Of like if somebody's out there saying, I don't think love is real in any capacity whatsoever. It's a complete and total illusion. It doesn't exist even in a conceptual sense. Well, yeah, man. Like you don't have to explain to me why that son of a bitch has a bunch of hate in their heart. Like, I totally get that, man. Yeah. But the cool thing is, like, Johnny and I aren't saying that. Like, that's not even close to what. No, not in the slightest, man. We totally think love is a real thing. Compassion, friendship, kindness, joy, like support through tough time, all of that stuff, man. We're not saying we think that is not real, right? That's not what we're saying. We feel like the evidence has been sufficient there, okay? The problem is the God thing, and the problem is the connection of the God thing and the love thing as so intrinsically tied together that without one you cannot have the other, okay? There's really where the crux of it is for us. We don't think the God's been demonstrated, don't believe in that, don't think you can make decisions based on that crap. But love, yeah, totally real, definitely happens. We totally feel it. Now, real quick, and then I'll throw it back to Johnny and you. You said something. You said something really, really quick, and I want to make sure we don't skip over this. At one point, you said, "If we just accept that God is love, then," and you made these connections, and I think, okay, yeah, if we just accept that God is love, then yeah, I can see how we get to those connections. But do you see that doesn't work and wouldn't work for you? If I said to you, if we just accept that Muhammad is the final messenger of the one true God, Allah, then you can see why all of this stuff afterwards, right? But that's what we're arguing about, man. That's what we have the problem with. That's the thing we have to figure out. So we can't just accept it and move on. We have to have that proven. We have to have that crucial point demonstrated. Does that make sense, Moses?
Okay. So that makes perfect sense. So when you mentioned Muhammad, I realized that you're trying to throw in a religion, but if you understood what I was saying in previous calls, that God is a manifestation of everything that we experience and we see. So technically, God is in everything, in all creation. So when we understand that we are all just one piece of the whole puzzle, and we don't worship any particular piece, but we understand that our power comes from being part of the whole puzzle. And we understand that, okay, if we love together, the more love that harmonizes together, we get that greater love frequency in who God is, right? We're not trying to worship a specific man as in Muhammad or Moses or Buddha, right? Because that's worshiping man. God doesn't call us to worship man, but he calls us to worship the Father, right? So the source. And the moment that somebody tries to lift themselves above the source and say, I am greater, you must follow me or you're going to die. If you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. You are starting a religion. You are causing people to die under your false knowledge.
Okay, kind of sounds like Jesus might fit that criteria based on what you just said. I'll be quiet. I swear. Go.
Sure. Moses, it sounds like your definition of, for a moment there, it sounded like you said your definition of God was everything that we see and experience in the world. Could you please elaborate on that? Because I have something to say to that, if I understood you right. Okay,
so God uses all things good and evil to glorify his creation, right? So that's just how God works. So I can give, what I was trying to do last week is give you a biblical and physical current time example of how we can see how God manifests in everything in our lives, right? So from sports to politics to the news to our jobs to our everyday lives, the things that happen are physical manifestations of the spiritual beauty of who God is, right? So if you would like me to give you an example, I can give you an example of how God manifests.
Well, that's kind of what you called for, Moses. You called to
right.
So let's do that, and then let's hear what you said about that. Come on, let's hear it.
Okay, so are you familiar with the story of Abraham in the Bible?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not trying to talk about the Bible. I'm just giving it you as a reference. So in the Bible, Abraham was known as the man who was the father of faith, and the promise was given to him. So basically, through Abraham, Christ's nation would be free. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, what president do we know was known as the person who freed the slaves? Abraham Lincoln. Wow, isn't that funny?
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln.
Oh my God, Moses.
Okay, and so
Moses, I'm not saying anything about that. That is one of the. You're not this, but that is one of the stupidest things that I've heard on this show. Not you, just that thing that you said. You got another example?
It continues. It gets
deeper. Better.
It's not just one. That's
Go for it. Give me more. Give me more.
Yeah.
Give me more. I feel like a wrestling heel, and your boos are my energy source. What else you got, Moses? Go on.
Okay, so Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in Peter's house, right? That was the place that he died. It was known as Peterson's house or Peter's house, right?
I thought he was shot at a theater.
Ford's Theater.
Yeah. Ford Theater. Is it Ford Theater? Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
The place was called Peter's house, though. You can look it up right now if you need to.
We'll just accept it, Johnny.
Let's say he got shot.
Keep going.
And then they carried him over to Peter's house. All right, sure. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
Let's just say.
Okay. So Jesus Christ grew up in Peter's house, and his ministry started in Peter's house, right? So it's a testament to show that in order to grow up in your faith, you must die in Peter's house for that promise.
Where does it say that Jesus' ministry started in Peter's house? Real quick, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Where does it say? What reference are you getting for Peter's house?
It's in the Bible. You can fact.
Tell us right now. You're so confident. Give us the chapter.
Yeah,
and
just
verse.
give me some
chapter and
some
verse,
kind of reference. Yeah.
What do you got?
Let me see. Jesus' ministry.
I thought he started in didn't he get lost as a child in
a temple?
It's in
synagogue?
It's in Capernaum.
Yeah.
It's in a town called Capernaum. It's in a town
Capernaum?
called Capernaum, and that's Capernaum, however you want to describe it.
Sure.
And it's assumed that Jesus was living in Peter's house, and that's where his ministry started. Okay?
Where's your chapter and
So
verse?
even if you don't want
Give
to
us your
accept that-
chapter and verse, Moses.
Yeah. What's the reference? Just give us the we're not. This isn't
Matthew
like a
8:14. Matthew 8:14.
Okay.
But even if
Okay.
you don't accept this, it still gets deeper. So you don't have to jump into this one and be like, "Oh, I caught him." But I'm just.
But wait,
real
quick.
If you want to believe the story.
Hang on, Moses. Hang on. We can go a little deeper, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not stopping you there, but I do want to point this out, okay? Because I often find that many believers, not just Christians, not just followers of Jesus and God, right? Just many believers of all stripes, will tell me something like, "No, Elliot, you don't understand. It's a cumulative case." And I go, "Oh, so what you're saying is it's not just one thing, but it's like a layering of multiple things that provide a solid support for this." And they're like, "Yeah, totally." So then I ask the question that I think is the most important, and I'll ask it to you, Moses. If that's why you believe, if we go point by point and demonstrate that every single one of these doesn't work, when do you stop believing?
Well, if I saw the connection and pointed it as similar to the story of God, it's just an opinion whether you want to accept it as true. You don't necessarily have to see the connection, right? But it's just like somebody can see a boat in the clouds, but you don't have to believe that there's a boat in the clouds. But I can just see that connection. I didn't go around searching for this.
That's not good for you. If what you're saying is it's just kind of us looking at shapes in the clouds, and some people see God and some people don't, that means by definition, your God is definitely not objectively there. It is a subjective classification that individual humans are just taking their own thoughts and feelings and putting it out there like a concept, which, to be honest, Moses, kind of sounds like some stuff Johnny and I have said in the past. So welcome to atheism and hell. I'm just kidding with you, man. I'm just teasing you.
Moses,
But
Moses,
you have to.
Moses,
Sure.
Moses. I'm bursting with things to say, and I want to go back. I want to make sure it's SR and you, and then me and you. But I'm still wrapped on this chapter 8 business. Okay, first of all, it's chapter 8. Okay. What about the first 7 chapters? He started his ministry in chapter 8. False. It's like in the Sermon on the Mount is chapter 5. Didn't he start his ministry at least as late as the Sermon on the Mount? Maybe even earlier. Also, a couple months ago, I was on Truth Wanted with Objectively Dan, and we had a sovereign citizen call in, and he took us on a whirlwind tour of many regs, many statutes, many provisions of law, and tried to establish through this patchwork, this Swiss cheese patchwork quilt of bad thinking, that you don't have to pay your federal income taxes. Well, you're calling out the hits and you're ignoring the misses. Okay, Abraham is the father of the one of the patriarchs of Judaism, and who freed the slaves? Abraham Lincoln. What on earth? You can't. Do you really honestly think that is a convincing argument? That you would call an atheist?
No,
wait, and then the next thing you said was that he died in Peter's house, and then it doesn't even check out with the timeline of Jesus' ministry. You didn't say, well, that's not a good argument. Maybe I shouldn't use that ministry thing, but it fits in my little name game, matching game. Moses, respectfully. Okay, these 2 points are awful. What is your third point? I want to hear that. Is it better or is it worse somehow?
Okay,
it's got to be.
Okay, the third point The third point is way better. I forgive me if that wasn't I can understand how that point can be looked at as a stretch. That's why I don't be like, oh, my faith is because of these points. But if you can see it, then you have the eyes to see it. But it's not the reason of my faith. Okay. So the third point. So
I'm here for it.
The presidents, right? The presidents are elected individuals.
This is going to be good.
Who are seated in the White House and in the Oval Office, right? So
not all of them. The
White
earlier
House
ones weren't in the White House, and they weren't in the Oval Office. Didn't exist. Built by slaves, by the way. Built by slaves.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Got burned down by Canadian forces in the War of 1812.
Pitter patter.
Okay, so spiritually, the White House, right? The glorified kingdom that God has prepared for us, right? A crazy place with many mansions, right? White House is symbolism for like a kingdom or whatever, right?
Okay.
And the White House is in between the states Virginia and Maryland, correct?
Uh-huh.
It's in D.C. It's in Federal City District.
And isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that the spirit that births life was birthed through Virgin Mary, Virginia and Maryland, and then you have Virgin Mary.
Do you know why? Virginia was named Virginia?
I mean, I don't know. It's not, but Virginia means virgin.
I can tell you,
right?
it's actually really easy. I can tell you, it's very easy. It's a fact that I have known literally since I was about 5 years old, just because like my family comes from there. So there was a queen once in England. There's not a queen now; it's a king. But there was this queen a long ass time ago, and it was like a real big deal that she like was not married. That was like a big thing, a lot of people talked about it, and they called her like the Virgin Queen. And then she paid a bunch of people to get on a boat for 3 months and cross the Atlantic Ocean and then go set up a colony. And then in honor of her, they named it Virginia. And then for Maryland, it's almost exactly the same story, just with a queen named Mary.
And the Brits were real big in developing the colonial infrastructure over on in the colonies over here, back when there's only 13 of us. And so, of course, they're going to name them after royalty and the patrons and stuff like that, Pennsylvania is named after William Penn, New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. Folks just liked it better that way. But the fact that something's called that is hardly relevant. But let's back up, Moses. So what if there's these weird coincidences between Abraham Lincoln and Abraham the patriarch and Virgin Mary? And are you trying to say that the United States history has been preordained by the Bible? Is that what you're saying, Moses?
Yes, but not only the Bible. Remember, I'm trying to tell you that everything that we live and experience is a manifestation of God's gospel, God's love. Every single thing has been preordained. That's why we are all puzzle pieces of God's kingdom, right? But we have to believe.
How did you come to this?
In order for it to make sense.
How did you come to this conclusion, Moses? Like, did you read it somewhere and then go, oh my gosh, all this stuff, yeah, I can see it now? Like, did somebody tell it to you, or did you? Yeah, how did this happen? Yeah. How did you come to this conclusion?
How did you fall in this pit? Is what we want to know. Were you pushed or did you jump?
And that's the crazy thing. Not at all. Like, that's the one thing. When you're growing in faith, it's very important to not try to learn information from other people, especially false pastors or religious leaders, because they can trap your mind. So all of this stuff, I kid you not, nobody has told me most of these things, right? These are things that just, I believe in God and I believe I have the Spirit of God in me. So these things are shown to me, right? So just like there was one time I was doing research on gangs, and the two biggest gangs in America are Blood and Crips. And then I was just like, oh my gosh,
MS-13.
Jesus, right, with the blood of Jesus, he healed Crips. He healed crippled men. Blood, Crips. And then you have gangs like Gangster Disciples. and Latin King. So
Moses,
it's like all these things are showing who God is.
I want to give you a little bit of my past with the spirituality and the belief in God and stuff. Okay. And the reason I want to do this, and we got some other really good calls, and I think we're gonna move on to some others. But the reason I want to tell you about what my experience was a little bit is because it sounds very, very similar to where you're at. There was a period in my life where I didn't believe, like the books of the Bible. I didn't go to church or listen to a pastor or do anything with rituals, but I did very much fully believe that absolutely everything around me, from the most magnificent and incredible example I could come up with to the tiniest mundane garbage, we all do it every day type of stuff. Okay. Every little thing was a vastly important, specific for me message from the universe as a whole. And I could sit here and without putting any effort into it, I could go through a diatribe about why these paper towels falling off my desk right before we started the show is incredibly meaningful. Like there's something about, being wrapped up in things that are flimsy and don't actually provide you support, kind of like how paper towels are wrapped around the towel roll. We can do this with abso-freaking-lutely anything because that's something about us as humans that makes us really cool. We as people can attribute all of this fanciful stuff to all of these things around us without any good reason for that to be the case. And sometimes it can feel really cool and really awesome, and you can make some super cool connections where you go, holy crap, the White House and heaven and Maryland and Virginia, and oh my gosh. But at the end of the day, you can do that with absolutely everything. And just because you can do that does not mean that it is true. And that's why we need a robust epistemology to determine how we know the stuff around us actually is real. And so what I would suggest, man, is go look into some things like pareidolia. Go look into the pattern seeking that we as humans do on a regular basis, because I think it might make some of those things just a little bit less crazy.
Less profound.
Less profound. Thank you. That's a good, thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate you calling, Moses. Thank you for being the first call from after I've come back. I'm going to have to go back and watch your old videos to sort of get on board with where you're at. But holy smokes, Moses. That was something else.
Good stuff. Can I read a couple of these wonderful super chats we've been getting real quick?
I'd love it if you would.
Oh my gosh. We have from K-Store, a member for 2 months, sending $2 freaking dollars, saying, love you guys, listen to you every day, first live. Holy crap. Thank you for being here with us. Yeah. We appreciate that. We've got Isaiah S, been a member for 2 months, sending $5 saying, as a good atheist, I check my horoscope every day to make sure it is still wrong. I love that. That's a good one, man.
We have wrong tells you something. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Right. We've got from Quantum Answer, who has been a member here for 2 years, has just gifted 20 Atheist Experience memberships. Quantum Answer, you rock. Thank you so much. You are always out there showing us a bunch of support and love. And if you just became a member, first off, thank Quantum Answer. And second off, use all those cute little emojis and stuff you got now. We've got $5 from Miranda Rensberger, been a member for 2 months, saying, when Johnny and SR are here, it takes less than 10 minutes to get to poop. And I'm sending in money for this. Well, Miranda, you're the reason that we keep doing this. So thank you for supporting our great work.
Everybody does it. So
everybody does it. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
We've got $5 from Stina saying, Johnny P, we missed you. I hope that John from Canada calls. Haha, just kidding.
Bite your tongue.
We've got $10 from Watcher235711. $10 with no message. Thank you so much, Watcher. We appreciate you. Yep. 249 euros from Triangle of Stars saying Johnny, heart eyes emoji and a hug emoji. And then Watcher235711 sent us 10 more dollars. Ooh. Saying love to you both, an extra hug for Johnny today. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. That's because he's been ignoring us. He left us on red. We've got, hang on, we're almost done, I swear. We've got Daniel Datison and $5 saying, has anyone from AXP ever debated Cliff Connectly, I think is how you say his name? He makes me so upset and always ruins my day. Then Daniel Datison and another $5 saying, I'm so sick and tired of people telling me they will pray for me when I ask what evidence do they have for God. Yeah, it's not great. We've got Alan Ferguson, been a member for 6 months, and $20 saying, welcome back, JPA, even if it is with secular rarity. Haha, so much rationality and awesome team. Thanks. $4.99 from Gayest Husky saying, Anubis led me to massage his plump mangoes, which have the best tasting seed ever, and the ancient scriptures tell me it's a healthy diet. I feel like there's something there.
If it's written down, it's got to be true.
It's got to be
true. It's old. Yeah.
Got to be true.
Yeah.
From Anubis. And finally, $5 more from Daniel Data saying, how do I become an AXP member and what does the membership include? I'm sure somebody has already probably responded because we have wonderful mods, but it's very easy. Below, right below in the chat, there's a little button. You click join, and then you join. You set it up, and then you get to say all kinds of nice things. Yeah, and look at all those faces of us. You can use that facepalm image of Johnny as much as you want. Think about that. Think about what you're missing.
There's a facepalm image of me?
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, you got one. Then you got one where you got your finger up, and I got one where like I'm laughing, and then one where I got kind of like a side eye. And,
yeah, that's right. That's
kind of nice.
This one.
I know they look good. They make us look good, you know. But Johnny, I was thinking about something that whole call, and I know it may seem strange, but in the back of my mind, I had this. I was just wondering about this dog stuff. Like, I mean, I know you have a dog, you know, like I've, you know, we've known each other for a while now. And I've, you know, you've talked about your dog for a long time, man. You love that dog.
You see him in pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's there. He's there. He exists. But like, what was this whole thing with the you believe in dog? What was that?
It's been on my mind lately. I have it on some good authority that the shelters right now are beyond max capacity, and they are putting dogs down, paw over fist. I don't know, that sounds terrible, not to make light of it, but there's a dog in Oakland Animal Services right now named Uma, a husky shepherd mix, gets along with kids, gets along with dogs, likes to play, super smart, 3 years old, very beautiful dog, and good demeanor, blue eye, brown eye situation. And she's on the short list for execution. And it got me thinking about what can people do? Well, if you have it in your heart to go to your local shelter, if you've got it in your budget, maybe foster or adopt a dog, get them out of the shelter. I'm not saying go to a breeder. I'm saying go to the shelter and find an excellent dog. My dog came from Oakland Animal Services, and a 501c3 nonprofit organization. But if you're not in the Oakland area and you can't help save Uma from death, you could go to any other shelter. Prioritize kill shelters if you can afford it. And so, you know, I've been spending a lot of time with my dog and thinking about his, his brothers and sisters in the shelter, and wondering if there's something that I could do to assist in that. Of course, if you can't afford it, don't do it. But that was just a pretext for me to say this, so that you people will get out there and try to help our four-footed friends. And if it's not a dog, it can be a cat. Cats are in trouble too, in Austin and all around the country. So give it a thought. Give it some consideration. If you're already thinking of doing something, if you're looking for good companionship, I've certainly got some good companionship from Mr. Beautiful himself, Dr. Vinny. But that's what that's all about.
I think that's great, man. I love that. I think that is an awesome thing. I have heard, even though I don't believe, but if y'all pardon the turn of phrase here, but I have heard that there is a special place in heaven for animal lovers. So
I've heard that too. It's a special place in heaven.
Special place in heaven.
Not a special place in Omaha.
That's right. That's right.
I have some announcements, and we'll get to the next call. It's time for our annual Bat Cruise fundraiser. Join us on August 24th. Forrest Valkai, J. Mike, you, Secular Rarity, and many other familiar faces will be in attendance. Get more information and buy your tickets at tiny.cc/batcruise. I might be there too.
I've heard talk. I've heard the stone, the rock that we build our house on here. Kelly himself will be there. I don't know.
Kelly,
you'll have to come and find out. That's what I've heard.
All right.
So.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
We also have a channel that houses all the shows of the ACA in audio podcast form. Visit tiny.cc/AEN podcast. You can listen to all the shows, AXP, Talk Heathen, Truth, Wanted Nonprofits, which is, of course, and always will be, the flagship show of the ACA. It's all in one channel. Go there. Send a super chat. We've already read some of the super chats.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll read as many as we can. We always try to read them all, but we are only human. And sometimes we lose track of them. So if we do, our apologies, but we're going to try to read them. We got Secular Rarity on the job. He's not going to let any slip through his sieve. And of course, the ACA wants you to know what's going on in our community. And for that, we've got an updated website. Head to www.atheist-community.org, and you can learn about the organization itself, its policies, and how you can get involved. And let's get the crew up. Cue up the crew. There they are. There's some of the crew.
A wonderful crew.
Thank you. They make the show
Absolutely.
happen. It would just be a Teams call with me and Elliot were it not for the crew who get the calls going. And we love them, don't we, folks? Doing a tremendous job. All right.
Absolutely great.
I want to talk to James. Can we talk to James? Let's talk to James.
Let's do it.
James is a gent coming out of Michigan, and James would need more evidence to not believe as evidence of God exists within mathematics and grammar. All right, James, it sounds like you're pretty savvy with mathematics and grammar. And I can speak for myself. I'm an attorney, allegedly, which means I'm bad at math, but I'm not bad at grammar. And Elliot, I don't know. But James, what do you got? Give us your best first opening argument for this.
Hey guys, how you doing? Yeah, I watch your show often. Secularity, man, you're cool. You got a good personality, man. You're cool. I like that. First,
good dude.
Yeah. I'm just gonna come out real with you guys. Christ Jesus revealed his numbers to me. So, the first thing I'm gonna throw at you is April 17th. That's when he was
17.
April 17th. April 17th.
April 17th.
April 7th.
Okay.
April 17/4, and I can prove it.
April 17, like 4, like the year is like 4. That you're saying that's when Jesus was born?
No, that's when he was conceived.
Okay.
Wow.
Like I said, I know. Like I said, I was real, and I could prove it.
All right. Well,
okay. Let's just.
I know it's crazy.
Where's this going? Where
you had an experience? You had a revelation. Is it safe to say that you had a personal revelation, or did you find this from some external source?
No, it was like a revelation, and yeah, man, it's crazy. So I don't know where. Ask away, and I could probably answer it mathematically or grammarly, because everything's coded in the English language.
Okay, so you got a revelation that was when Jesus was conceived, Was that it? Was that the entirety of the revelation, or is there more? Does it like go to something? Does Jesus being conceived on that date like mean something, or is that just like a cool fact? Like Jesus was actually only had like 9 toes, you know? Like it. Where does this story go from here?
No, I hear you. Basically, it was a couple month process, and no, I didn't see numbers or hear voices, nothing like that.
Right.
But yeah, basically, it was a 3-month process, and it started with different pieces, and it ended up with my own business. I'm 44 years old. I always wanted a business, and he gave me my own business off of his numbers. And it all goes into the 7 seals. Basically, if you add up the numbers, instead of putting dashes like 4-17-4,
Okay.
put 4 plus 17 plus 4. Do that with the day he was born, September 18th, 4. Crucified April 3, 33. He rose April 6th, 33.
All right.
If you add up all those numbers.
Okay, go on. If you add up all those numbers, sorry, I was going to say, like, what's the point? But please.
Yeah. What do you get to when you add all that up?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of different things too. But one of them is this. One of them, if you add up all the numbers, it's 139. That's a super prime. 139. Go to the last book of the Bible, Revelations. Who has an ear, let them hear. Verse 13:9. You go to the first book of the New Testament, same verse, 13:9. Same thing. Whoever has an ear, let them hear. Now, the last part, and this all equals out to April, or to 4:17:4, is book 38. Zechariah 13:9. Again, he says, I will take the third, which 139, a third of that is 4:17. April 17th. He said, I will take the third, and I will bring them to the fire, and I will try them as gold, and try them like silver. And that, it's all mathematics. Just like the first
Clearly.
Verse, the data conception is in the Genesis 1:1.
Yeah, real quick, James. I don't know if you've ever heard about some of the incredible mathematics found in the Quran. But I'm sure you're probably familiar at least with like the Arabic history with math and numerals, right? Like we use Arabic numerals today. That was the first group of people that seemingly came up with the concept of zero. Like they did a lot for math and stuff, right?
They were very Akbar about math.
Yeah,
they were, and their math was very Akbar in total. So if I sat here and walked you through some of the incredible mathematics in the Quran, like for instance, there's something along the lines of the amount of times that Allah's name is mentioned in the Quran. And when you add them all up, it produces this very specific number. And if you go to that chapter and verse, it talks about how Allah is the one true God. And like, that's phenomenal. I mean, how could that be the case unless Allah obviously is real and did that, right? If we go through various verses, there's one about like literally there's one about like bees or something, and then like the number of verses in the chapter is like the exact same number of like chromosomes that a bee has or something like that. Like do those types of stories make you now start to think maybe there's something true here with this Muhammad and Allah Quran thing? Or do you just kind of go, wow, that's some interesting coincidences, but I don't see how that demonstrates the truth of these claims? I know that's not a true dichotomy. It's a bit of a leading question, but do you see what I'm coming from there, James?
Right. Oh yeah, I definitely like I said, I would agree with you guys. There's patterns in everything.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing about it is, you have to break down the probability.
And how do you break down the probability? Well, it's the process
Johnny.
that you go through, James, to break down the probability. And what does breaking down the probability mean to you?
Okay. Here's one. The square root of 7.4 is 4.17. April 17th. It only happens with these numbers. I got his numbers all day. Like I said, he showed me his numbers.
Hey, but why does the square root of 17.4 equaling 4.17? Why is that of importance? I don't understand that. I don't understand what the connection there was.
I'll tell you why it's important.
Yeah,
I'll tell you why it's important, because a lot of these numbers, a lot of the stuff, when I found out the numbers, a lot of it is because I don't know if you're familiar with logos, language. As far as Hebrew's backwards. So,
well, English is backwards.
For instance,
if you're
April 17.
Hebrew.
We're the weird ones, I guess.
Sideways.
Yeah. Right.
Arabic's backwards, or
Farsi.
So like April 17th could be 174. It also could be 417. You see what I'm saying?
No, I don't. We don't see what you're saying. We see what you're saying as far as the numbers going in different directions, James.
Well, then
James, I'm just going to say
you
this.
don't understand mathematics. Then.
Yeah, well, I said that from the get-go, that I didn't understand mathematics, but I'm just wondering, aren't we supposed to have like the faith of a child? Aren't we admonished and encouraged to have the faith of a child? And as far as I know, children, I'm not a child. Maybe they would understand this. It's so simple. A 4-year-old child could understand it, but we don't have any 4-year-old children around here. I don't get it. I don't get what you're saying. I get that numbers relate to each other in different ways because that's how numbers work sometimes. But I don't understand how that leads us to the existence of God. How about this? If it's all right with you, SR, can we skip to the grammar part?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's go to the grammar.
I edit a lot of documents, so.
Yeah, I'm really interested. I love. Some would call me a logophile. I do love words and languages, and so yeah. Give me that. Yeah. Give me that syntax. Bring it on.
Cool. All right. All right.
Grammar.
I got a couple of them. One of them, April 17:4. You got your 5 vowels: A, E, I, O, U. Okay, that's one. Now take it for what it is. You know that you might not mean nothing to you, but that's one.
What about
why? Another quick one would be, what's that?
What about why?
No, I was just kind of why is
it's only something.
Yeah, why is a vowel, but sometimes so maybe
And before you go on to your next point, James, what about people who have other vowels? Are you saying that the truth is revealed but only in English and only in
I need to go read it.
Modern English? Because
like I said, man, I'm heavy. I'm in, and I really only speak English. And like I said, man, I'm just going by what I was revealed. It could break out or break down in other languages as well. I don't know.
Would that if it did break down in other languages? Would that like shake your confidence in this? Like if somebody came up to you and was like, "Hey, man, this is actually really cool that it works for English, but it literally doesn't work for any other language we know about." Would that make you kind of go, maybe not so?
Or half and half? What if it's What about other languages?
Yeah, I mean, I would. Yeah, I would investigate it, but the original Hebrew and Greek, that's been done away with for years.
All right, I'll tell you this: there is more than there's a different number of vowels in ancient Greek than there are in English.
Yeah, for sure.
Alpha, there's eta, there's epsilon, there's iota, there's omicron, there's omega. Then there's what am I missing? I think I'm missing one. Upsilon? Did I say upsilon?
I think you did.
So that's.
I don't think I know the full Greek alphabet.
Well, I studied ancient Greek once upon a Once upon a child.
Allegedly.
Yeah. And so ancient Greek, that's one of the languages. I don't know how many vowels there are in ancient Hebrew. And what about Aramaic? And what about Latin? And what about any of the other languages that might have been spoken by, regional people of the ancient Near East? I think if you're onto something, I think that maybe you might want to go and check out whether or not those things check out with the other languages. Now, you might want to, do that, and then call us back when you've checked out.
Then you're dismissed. You wouldn't even let me. But why does that matter? I mean, let's look at it like this: 2 plus 2 is 4, right? 3 plus 1 is also 4.
Yeah. Sure is.
It doesn't mean the first one's wrong, correct?
No, but does that work in another language? Like if you and I only spoke Spanish right now, would dos y dos equal cuatro? Y tres y uno igual cuatro? Right? Like they would both equal 4, right? So it would work across the language barrier, whereas the specific thing that you were just bringing to us would not. And that's the distinction. That's the difference. Because the mathematics works, whether you and I are speaking Mandarin or Swahili right now, but this thing might not. And if it doesn't work across all these other languages, you even said hey, that might kind of make me rethink this a little bit. So that's why it's important, man. And that's why the math doesn't.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would the Hebrew and Greek, if those original languages translated, would that persuade you more than, let's say, a random, Chinese language or Japanese, whatever? Would that make sense to you?
It depends on what the nature of your claim is. Yeah. If what the nature of your claim is that the universality of this God is one that it is not only capable, but has revealed itself throughout grammar, then it would have to be something that's more universal. It couldn't just apply to the Koine Greek or the ancient Hebrew. It would have to be something that is more universal, because that's the crux of your claim. That's what's at the underpinning of it. You're saying it's universal. If, however, what you said was hey, Johnny, SR, I'm just saying when you look a little bit more at the Greek and the Hebrew, they're saying more than just what the words are on the page. Honestly, I already agree with you there. Yeah, man, I've already looked enough stuff about ancient Hebrew to be there is more going on here than just the words they walked down the street. But again, the claim you made, at least I thought, was this one of universality and of God revealing himself in such an undeniable way across all cultures and time. And if that's true, then it would seem to me only doing that in one language that definitely isn't spoken anymore, that's not a great way to do it.
That's not fair. I only speak English. I mean, I don't know. Well, I only speak English.
Well, I get that. I'm not criticizing you. I'm criticizing your God. I'm saying if your God did it this way, that's not a good way.
If your God did it this way,
but how do you know he did? I don't know. I know the original Hebrew and Greek. Can I say one more thing in my closing arguments, and then I'll kind of take off, you guys?
Johnny's in charge.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just one more thing about the grammar. The first verse in the Bible, Genesis 1:1, and the last verse of Revelation, it's the same verse. 44 letters, 17 vowels. April 17:4. You add up this alphabet and the reverse alphabet to both of them separately. You add them, they both equal the same number. 1188. That's the middle chapter of the Bible. Psalm 118, verse 8. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put your confidence in man. Appreciate you guys. Yeah. God bless you guys, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, science bless you.
Science bless you too. Thanks for calling, James. Oh, my goodness. That's two people calling with the same kind of thinking, where they're taking the hits, they're ignoring the misses.
Right.
And I just wonder if you shifted your perspective, because it's clearly he chose the Bible. They're choosing the Bible. They're not choosing, dare I say, the Silmarillion. and trying to find similarities. In that book. Wait a second. Well, I'll take credit. I'm probably been closer to the trail than any other host on the AXP. But if they chose another book, they would find connections there, right?
Yeah.
Also, let's say it were true. For me, stumbling over that, there's an SNL skit where there's a psychic who has really unremarkable predictions, like really boring things. You're going to heat up a hot pocket, and you're going to do it for the appropriate amount of time. But when you get it out, it's still going to be cold in the middle. And he touches them and it freezes. Yeah, these are unremarkable connections between things, and these are cherry picked. If they're even true, they're cherry picked like anything's cherry picked, and I'm not persuaded. I'm sorry. I think the truth should be undeniable. It should be simple.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to go through backflips like that when something is just objective and demonstrable, right? And again, like I said to the last caller, this is something that really has strikes a personal chord with me, because this is where my mindset was for so long. And I found myself at one point in time having such difficulty doing the basic things in life, because literally it would be like, I go to grab my toothbrush, right? And then I unscrew the cap on the toothpaste and it falls to the ground. And that means something. And I need to figure out what the universe is trying to tell me. Wait, is it because you can't hold on to things so strongly because then they'll fall out of your hand, or maybe I wasn't focused enough, and I just need to.
If you don't start the thread correctly in the beginning,
the whole you see, and Johnny, it clearly was a message for me, and it just so happened that the entity, the understanding that was sending that message,
Xenu, right?
But you know what? Funny enough, no, it was the Yahweh character that I was raised up with, that I was told.
Volcano god?
Yeah, that guy, the one that comes in the tornadoes sometimes, and yells at the people. And I know it was weird, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he sent that blue jay. I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah. I see the number 318 all the time. I have my entire life, and that's how I know that Khan Noonien Singh is real. And he's going to take over the world in the Great Eugenics Wars of 1997.
And I feel like, the more people, stop suppressing the truth and unrighteousness there, the better the world.
I did my research, okay? It's on Netflix. Hey, I
got a couple of super chats real quick.
Do a super chat.
Can I run through them?
I want to talk to the blind swordsman.
I'm going to do them as quick as possible because we've got 20 Czech Krona super chat coming. Says, joke author is mod Ironclad Alibi. And it says, dear caller James, Bible prohibits masturbation. That includes mentally masturbating numbers. Stop your sins. I love it.
Spilling that seed all over the dusty trail of the internet.
Right. Like Onan. Daniel Data, new member, sending $5 saying, you are now looking at official new AXP member. How does it look on me? It looks fucking awesome, Daniel. You badass. You are the man. You freaking rock. We've got.
Did you say Daniel Data or Daniel Data?
I don't know. I think I go back and forth. I think I'll say data sometimes and data sometimes. One is his name. I don't know that.
The other is not.
Well, Daniel, please, look, you don't even have to send us any more money. Just tell us how to say it, and I will come on and severely apologize. And I will take my lashings if need be. Another $5 from Miranda Ritzberger, 2-month member, saying, yeah, James, but how many days are there in a week? Oh, Jesus. I hadn't even, Miranda, that just brought back some.
In the back of the part of my brain that I don't clean out.
Yeah. That brought some memories up, and some acid reflux. Okay. Grumpy Butterfly sent in $5 2-month member. If you remove the colons, dashes, and other punctuations, you can fit the numbers wherever they fit your conclusion. I think that's true. I do think that's
60% of the
true.
time, it works every time.
Every time.
Let's go. I said I wanted to speak to the blind swordsman, and I do.
Let's do it.
We're talking now with Zatoichi 444. Zatoichi is a person of indeterminate gender, so we can't tell. And Colin from Michigan is a Gnostic. And Zatoichi says this world is possibly created by a lesser God, not the one true God. I have read a tome about that too. Tell us, Zatoichi 444, how would you determine whether or not this world is created by a lesser God or not?
Well, when you look around you at every construct that you can see, like trees especially, you can see the mathematical exponential work that has been done, but it's almost simplistic.
Can I get a notepad in here, please? Can somebody bring me a notepad and a magic marker?
No, what I'm
Go ahead, keep going.
Is that everything can be mathematically plotted and explained.
Yes.
And even our DNA is like a digital encoding system, you know, that determines who we are basically as a person, as a human being. And, you know, when you take into account all these things, you have to see that there is some sort of planning.
You have to see it?
That planning?
Why?
You have to see it.
You can see it. You can see it. But the point I'm trying to make is that it seems to me almost simplistic, even as complex as it is. I mean, I think that a real God could do better, perhaps.
So just to be clear, this is a little odd for me. So, just to be clear, you're saying that not only is there a God, like the tippy top of the hierarchy God, but there is also not as high up gods and potentially multiples. And the one that made our existence was most likely one of the not as powerful ones. Is that what you're?
I mean, that's exactly it. And if you think
so, how did you determine that there's any gods, much less a hierarchy of power for these gods? How did you get to that?
DMT.
So why do you think the most powerful hallucinogenic compound? Do you know? Real quick. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm being very honest here. Our wonderful Johnny is a beautiful artist. Do you know what a hallucinogen is? Do you know what a hallucinogenic compound is?
Do I?
Yeah. I'm being honest. Like I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm being serious. Do you know what it is, right?
I'm practically a living one.
Okay, so that really didn't answer the question, and I'd love it if we could. Because
I know what it is.
Yeah, you know what it is, right? Now we can do the metaphor. You say you're practically a living one. That's cool, man. I kind of like that metaphor in some capacity. But like, why would you think a chemical compound that is well known to like, and I believe this is the scientific terminology here, fuck your brain up? Why would you think that is a way to determine truth? Why would you think like dimethyltryptamine is the most powerful hallucinogenic compound we have ever come across, as far as I understand, and it very much does these wacky, crazy things in your brain that we know do not correlate to the rest of the world around us. We have lots of good evidence for this. So why would you think that chemical would lead you to truth?
First of all, it occurs naturally within the human brain,
Yeah, we synthesize it in our brain just like low-level cannabinoids and oxytocin. But what the fuck does that have to do with anything? We know that THC, a cannabinoid that again is synthesized in the brain in some capacities, we know that it does certain things to the body. Dimethyltryptamine is like way further on that spectrum. This is well documented, man. Like lysergic acid does not even have the intensity that DMT does. So what about this chemical compound and what it does to you makes you think that is a good way for me to determine what is actually happening in the world around me?
I want to hear.
Why would you think that?
Why do you think so?
Oh, let me explain. Because when you have that experience, you cannot distinguish it from an absolute religious experience. It is absolute terror, but yet you're not afraid. How can I explain that? If you could die from terror, from astonishment, you would die. But you can't, because you're just observing this.
So what?
So why does that make you think? Why does that?
It seems to be an ultimate truth. It seems to be an ultimate truth that you are witnessing.
I don't understand what that means. I don't understand what an ultimate truth is off the rip, but also the language of seeming is not one that I can really get behind, because what if I said right here, right now, I've actually done DMT in a scientific experiment that was performed in my area with a very well-known local college? What if I told you that during that process, none of these things that you're saying occurred for myself and the 50 plus individuals that were involved in this? Would that make you go like,
have you ever considered that you were in the control group and didn't get anything?
No, I'm 100% positive. For instance, in this instance, what I'm telling you right here, right now, I'm 100% positive. I was receiving DMT for multiple reasons, not just my own experience in the past, but because it was then later told to everybody who was what, so that we could then have a discussion about it after the fact, months and months after the fact, after this data was published in reputable journals. Would that story, if I told you that definitively happened and could be proven true, would you go, wow, maybe that shakes my confidence a little bit that DMT is a good way to determine what's true, because my experiences are so radically different?
That is true. There's no way that's true.
So you've already ruled it out. So you won't even entertain the possibility because you've already established your conclusion. How is that a good way to live your life, man?
Let me speak. What I want to say is,
I just muted him because he started getting a little pushy. I'm going to give him.
I was getting a little hot myself. That's fair too. I'll take a deep breath, Z. I'll come back down a little.
Let's all calm down. Let's all calm down.
Yeah.
All right. Zatoichi, you were going to make a point. Boil it down. You get like 2 seconds. Boil it down. Let's hear it. What do you have to say?
You either do it or you.
Were you talking the entire time, Zatoichi?
Oh, come on.
That's not a conversation. That's a diatribe.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to unmute you again, Zatoichi. Boil it down. Something real pithy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you're back on the air. You were just kind of talking. You weren't listening. And I was listening to both of you. Now, go ahead. What's your response to what SR just said?
What did he just say?
Just about the understanding that based on what you've laid out for us today, you've described how using a particular substance led you to very specific experiences that then is the connection to take you to this conclusion about lesser gods existing, creating this world, a one true God actually being in charge of it all. And what I was saying was, if it were presented to you the exact opposite experiences using the same methodology, the ingestion of DMT, but radically different experiences and conclusions for those folks, would that butt up against each other for you and make you go, hey, I'm a little bit not super sure about this anymore?
What is thy response?
I'm not super sure about anything. you know, and neither should you be. But here's the thing. If you think about what God truly...
All right, so I just muted him because you asked a question. It was a little meandering. I'm gonna say this.
That's fair.
All right, Zatuichi, I'm gonna ask the question now, and you're gonna answer the question, or I will very snarkily, but very politely, remove you from this chat. Okay? You're saying that taking DMT or other hallucinogens is clear, unrefutable evidence of the existence of a deity of some kind, all right? And SR said that he participated in a study involving the same substance and did not have the experience that you say is uncontrovertible evidence for the existence of a deity. And the question is, would his experience cause you to reevaluate your claim that the experience of taking DMT or other hallucinogenic compounds is necessarily evidence of the existence of a God? And I'm going to unmute you. What is thy response?
Yeah, you're right. It's not uncontrovertible evidence. However, the experience is enough to fucking pretty much convince you beyond your reasonable doubt.
Fine, right. But Zatuichi, he just said he took the stuff. It didn't give him the convincing that you have. So now you have to account for the fact. Now you are going to have to account for the fact that two different individuals have done the same substance, have had experiences, but one led them to conclude that a deity exists, and the other one did not lead them to the conclusion that a deity exists. And you're going to have to say that it's not necessarily so, or you're going to have to say that SR is not giving us the whole truth of his experience, right?
No, so you're simplifying it, because all I would say is that I don't know under what conditions and what dosages SR did his experience.
Yeah, but what if it was all sufficient levels to your satisfaction? That's what I'm saying, because every time I hear these stories, I know of at least half a dozen that they have all the same criteria. Somebody says, "Oh man, I took a gram of psilocybin," and it's like, "Wow, dude." And then you got this cat over here saying, "I took a gram of psilocybin and I didn't get the same thing." And what happens time and time again is the response all of a sudden is, "Wow, maybe those weren't the right mushrooms. Yeah. Wow, maybe the sun wasn't shining correctly. Wow, maybe your mindset was a little fucked up." And that just seems to indicate that the methodology in and of itself is not a good way to come to truth.
Right. Okay. So, Zatuichi, right? Mm-hmm. You're so convinced that it has to be so. You're starting.
No, I'm not.
Well, it sounds like you are, dude, because you're really quick to say that. How do you know it was the same circumstances? You have to. You are the one making the claim, my friend. You are the one that has to prove it to us that's the
all
case.
I'm doing is telling you my personal experience.
Cool.
That's
okay.
But that's a cop-out, man.
That people do that. Look, I didn't say that you're going to hell. That's just what the Bible says. That people say that kind of stuff, and it's bogus, and it's.
I don't say that.
No kidding, you don't say that.
I'm
saying that
I'm not a moron.
You called us. Well, those people aren't morons. They're just been duped. But you're calling us to try to establish that let me actually read exactly what it says. Gnosticism. The world is possibly created by a lesser God, not the one true God. That's what you're called in for. And you're talking about DMT. And the DMT experience you had broke down the walls of reality in some way and put you in personal touch with something that you were able to not convince anyone here that is the case, but brought you in touch with like the true reality. And the true reality is that there is a divine presence and that I accessed it by messing my brain chemicals up in a way that caused me to experience a oneness. Like, dude, I have friends that do tons of drugs. Okay? They're wonderful, intelligent, articulate, and otherwise socially responsible individuals. They're not coming back to me and being like, hey, Johnny P, I done ketamine, and now I can tell you that Zarathustra is your next door neighbor. No one does that. They have their experience. They have a good time. They mellow out a little bit. And sometimes when they do certain drugs, they're emotionless for a day or two. And then they come back. It's a way for them to release stress in their lives. It's a way for them to forget about all the many burdens that they have. But they're not coming back to me and say, and they would too. Let me tell you, they would, because it's me, right? They make fun of me all the time. They're always coming at me. None of these people come back and they're like, oh yeah, I did DMT. Oh yeah, I did ketamine. And let me tell you, brother, sweet baby Jesus or whatever, the freaking one above all is real. Okay, that was your experience. And no doubt you experienced that. You experienced something that was profound to you. Okay? And you laughed about it. But let's be honest here. The DMT that was put into your body, it did kind of like mess with your brain chemistry a little bit. It sets you outside. It sets you, hey, I'm muting you right now because you're talking over me. You did it. You had a great experience. And then it brought you back to like normalcy. I'm not saying you were better now or you're worse then. I'm just saying it shook up your brain chemicals a little bit. You had an experience, and then when the brain chemicals went back to a state of nominal status, you maybe retained the memory of that, or maybe you retained, a memory of the experience. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you actually experienced a true thing. You experienced a phenomenon that you attribute to connecting to a oneness. And if it's more than that, well, then go ahead and prove it to us. You're unmuted. You were saying?
I was saying, why is it that I have become a better person after having this experience? And I'm not a religious guy.
Okay.
I don't believe in Catholicism. I don't believe in any of that shit.
Okay.
But I had an experience that led me to believe that there may be a higher power above us.
Okay.
And it may not necessarily be the highest power.
You were, though.
It just may be the creator of this universe, which, in a limited way created this universe, but it's not the true God of gods, let's say.
All right.
Probably nothing.
Thanks. Zatuichi, I've got a buddy who has crippling anxiety. Okay? He allegedly smokes a lot of marijuana, and he does take DMT, and he has done ketamine, as far as I know. And I can tell you that when he's on one or more of those substances, his experience of anxiety goes away for a little while. And it's during that time that he has expressed real appreciation for my friendship. I know it's there when he's not high as a kite, but he's unable to express it. And maybe it's just that when you had your chemical shaken up like a little snow globe, it allowed you to kind of like shake things up in a way that allow you to appreciate things that were always there, but you're a better person as a result. You got more empathy. You were able to see your interconnectedness. That doesn't mean anything. We are all interconnected. We are, we are at the mercies of reality. And if I may, something I wanted to say when I was on the show here today, and it goes in touch with this. The reality is kind of all we have are each other. The universe seems to be relatively indifferent to our highs and lows. It's just running its course, doing its thing. And we are sailboats, paper sailboats on the surface of the difficulties of life, right? Just because we want there to be meaning doesn't mean there is one. And I mentioned this. I have a friend. Okay.
No shit.
No shit?
Yeah, just because you want there to be meaning doesn't mean there is one.
Yeah.
I know all this, but I'm telling you that what happened to me made me lean towards the idea that there may be some sort of thing above us. And
but
that
if the
doesn't
same
mean that I am
if
a
the
fucking
same
ultimate
experience
believer like
is
you're
being
in-
used by other people to come to radically contradictory conclusions, that should, if you're being honest and you care about the truth of the world around you, if you use a method and somebody else uses the exact same method and you come to radically contradictory results, you should both get together and talk about that method, because maybe it's not a robust one. Maybe it does not actually reliably lead to truth.
Perfect. So Zatoichi, you said there's a maybe. You said maybe. There's a maybe there. You're probably still talking. I muted you. Okay. Accepting that you had an experience. What would be the next step you would take to figure out whether or not you just got high as a kite and your empathy was cranked up to 11, or you actually plugged into a so-called higher kind of consciousness? What would be the next thing you would do? There's the question. What is your answer?
Well, you either change your life for the better or you commit suicide.
That's not what you do. That's what you would do with that experience. What would you do to figure out whether it was a subjective, hallucinogenic experience that was a result of brain chemistry going off into left field and only that, or if it were something in addition to that, that you were able to connect to a divinity, the realm of the spirit? What would you do to figure out if it was A or B? What would you do?
No one can figure that out at this point in time because they've done studies on it and they cannot determine what is exactly happening in the brain when this substance is introduced.
All right, so
and they know that they don't know.
So you're fine without figuring out. You're fine as you are. You don't need to really know whether you plugged into divinity. You felt like you were plugged into divinity, and therefore that's good enough for you. You're not curious. You have zero intellectual curiosity.
No, you're wrong, man.
Well, I hope I'm wrong. Tell me, what would you do next?
I contemplate suicide all the time because I do not believe in an ultimate divinity. However, this experience was enough to lead me towards believing it. But it was not enough to convince me. Do you understand? You keep telling me what I already know.
Okay, great. So you're telling us that you had an experience while on a hallucinogenic substance that led you to believe in the possibility of the existence of a divinity, but you're not convinced of it. Okay, fine. How would you figure out whether or not there is or is not a divinity? And before you answer that, I would encourage you to please consult with a mental health professional to deal with suicidal thoughts, because that is not something you can necessarily armchair drug your way through.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I'm pretty goddamn stable, despite what I just said. I contemplate it. It doesn't mean that I would do it. You understand? See, there's so many subtleties in language.
So I've been told. Hey, you know what, Zatoichi, I appreciate you calling. I don't know if we're going to get anywhere with it. How about this? Call back and tell us what a way would be to figure out whether or not your DMT experience was a portal to the divine or whether or not it was just fizzy brain chemistry, because we've spent a lot of time. SR, we got super chat.
Yeah, we do have a one here from Stephen Pierce, 199, saying, I found God on Allele Alley in Punnett Square. I think I get that. I think I get it. I think I get what they're doing there, because they put a little winky face. So I feel like I got it.
I don't know.
Allele Alley, like allele, and then like Punnett Square, like
I don't believe in alleles. So
yeah.
All right, I want to talk.
Wait. Evolution is real, but you just don't think alleles are. I just want to make sure. Like speciation is a thing. Alleles.
Do my own research, SR. I do my own research.
Okay. All right.
Speaking of that or not, I want to talk to Mike. Mike is an individual of undetermined gender from New York, and Mike says that the ability to know God can't be found, and that someone is wasting time as atheists and theists since God existing is a moot point. Mike, what do you mean?
Yes.
What do you mean?
I think we should stop talking to these clowns about God. I don't think we can discover him in the natural universe. I think our tools to discover are minuscule inside of the vastness of the universe. And even if we did found him with our science, I don't think they would even tell us, because it would be so disruptive to commerce. But we should stop arguing with these clowns and basically ascend to agnosticism. We cannot know God. We cannot know who God is. The question is moot. It's irrelevant.
All right.
That's my opinion.
That's your opinion. Well, Mike, if it were just a college course in epistemology or in rhetoric, I would say, well, you're missing out on some good conversations with that attitude. But second...
I've been having them for 20 plus years.
Cool. So second, I would say, by atheists, I assume you mean anti-theists, because I am an atheist who does not believe in the existence of God, but I cannot say with any certainty that I would like to rely on that no God exists. So you mean an anti-theist, right?
Right.
And as far as theist is concerned, you're talking about...
dislikes the religion.
What's that? No, you said something.
I think an anti-theist is someone who is against religion.
Or against a belief in God, right? They believe a God does not exist.
Well, that's atheism. That's atheism.
Okay.
Anti-theist is someone who is against religion and dislikes religion passionately.
Okay. Well, we're operating on different definitions then, Mike. And then the other thing I would say is that, it's not an interesting conversation for us to have.
They're belief claims.
Belief claims. Yes, I don't accept the belief claim, but I don't accept that a God exists, but I don't say a God doesn't exist. I am an agnostic atheist. I'm open to being convinced.
That's why I didn't. That's why I.
Mike, stop, please! Don't make me do this. There's a back and forth. Let me finish my thought so we can just move on. I'm with you. We're on board. Okay, I'm the host. Let me just do this real quick, and you'll be happy with where I go. Okay. Rather than getting to the very boring conversation about defining these categories, no one cares. Go look at the 24-hour live stream if you want to watch that conversation, because we've had it like 50 or 100 times, okay? The real question, the real meat of your call is, why do we bother having these conversations with people on the show? Am I right? Unmuted. Am I right? Is that the real question?
Yeah.
Okay, then I got an answer for you. We don't exist.
You're not going to reach these people.
Really? So how do you account for the hundreds of emails we've gotten from people who believe in some of the kookiest theistic-y things that you have ever heard? And they listen to the show. They listen to the conversations that we have with callers. And they say, you know what? I started watching the show as a believer. I met somebody about 6 months ago. I met somebody here in this very room, a woman who was from Poland, moved to Chicago. She believed it. She was a Catholic, a Polish Catholic. And if you're watching, how you doing? Her deceased husband was an atheist. And when he died, she started getting into as a way of dealing with loss, she started getting into atheism versus theism debates and stuff. It led her over to AXP. And by watching the show, by listening to the conversations, she deconverted herself. And now that woman is living a better, unburdened life. She votes differently, I'm sure. And she behaves differently with the people in the world that we all share. So why do we have these conversations, Mike? Because we're not arguing about how many angels can exist on the head of a pin. There are real people who are affected by these ideologies. It affects how they vote, how they spend money, how they treat their family members. And some people, heaven forbid, are in communities where they seem like they're alone. We have these conversations. We're lightning rods for people who are doing numerology with us, and they get to watch us have the conversation, and they feel like they're not quite so alone anymore. So people are converted. It matters in the real world that we live in. And it's a light at the end of the tunnel for some people who have no hope that other people believe what they believe. Is that enough reasons for you why we have these conversations? Or do you want another one?
Am I off mute? Am I off mute yet? Can I speak?
Yes, sir.
That was like 20 minutes of mute. Wow. So whether or not you convince someone that God exists is irrelevant to the fact whether he does exist.
Okay.
Just because this person,
yes, that's correct.
You deconvert this person. I know you have very political aims in all of this, just as much as the religions.
So 501c3 is an organization. We don't have any political stances.
Yeah, I might have
no. I'm not talking about the nonprofit. I'm talking about atheism in general. When we talk, we have an agenda. It's part of an ideology, and we can't really break from the bounds. But whether or not we convince people has nothing to do with God. God is unknowable to all of us.
So
I think that's something that we need to accept and move on from.
So here's the problem, Mike, that I have with that is that I have many friends that are very much believers of some stripe. Okay. And when I speak with them, okay, about a whole host of issues, don't need to pick any one particularly. Put your favorite hot button topic in this blank here for all the viewers at home. When I have these conversations with my believing friends, it is absolutely a super big deal to them whether or not God exists, because a lot of my friends will directly tell me, and I believe their sincerity here. They say, Elliot, if you really could convince me otherwise, I'm open to the conversation and the evidence. But because I fully believe not only does God exist, my particular understanding of that God is correct. And this is what he wants. And this is why I'm doing these things. So the reason that I have that conversation with them is because they have directly told me it is the underlying motivation for them to do or not do certain things in the world around us that could, and sometimes very much demonstrably do, always lead to intense harm. That's an issue, man. That's an issue for me. And as long as other people are still doing that.
But there is no political solution. You are not going to change people through our votes.
Mike,
we are dealing with people who are blinded by faith and vote that way.
We know that that's not true. We have evidence.
I know it's
Mike, have you taken the black pill or something, Mike? There are people all the
There are trillions of galaxies that we have no idea about. 95% of energy and matter is unknown to us. Unknown.
What does that have to do with anything?
We will not know what God is.
Mike.
Just be thankful for what you have and be happy.
Mike, there are trillions of galaxies that we don't know about. Cool. My focus is not on the trillions of galaxies that I don't know about. It's not even about the whole galaxy. It's not even about...
I don't care that much about Saturn.
I was going to say the F word, Saturn. Sorry. Sorry, all the Saturnophiles out there. My concern is the human element of this, Mike. Okay? It's not merely an intellectual exercise. there is a human element to this. You may have given up. You might be an angry agnostic. It says AG here. Maybe it means angry, right? But we live in a world where people believe certain things and not other things. The demographics of belief in this country and in the world are always in flux. Sometimes there's more belief in deistic explanations or theistic explanations for why the world is the way it is. Sometimes one holy book is preferred over others. Sometimes people get away from certain hate preachers and move toward love preachers. You know, whatever it might be, cults, all this stuff. There is a human element to all of this. And what we're doing is we're having human conversations that many thousands of people are watching, okay? Now, it's not the whole wide world, but you got to take one step at a time. And every single person that sets down their archaic beliefs as a result of these conversations that we have, that's another person not believing in those archaic beliefs. And 1 adds to 2, adds to 3, adds to thousands, adds to millions. Now, it's not only this show. There's plenty of other shows that do it, but there's also the fact that we live in like a second information age where people are able to check facts and realize that some things don't add up. And also, the quality of life for many people increase, and therefore they don't have to resort to belief in magical solutions for their problems. They can actually like make those things happen. So there's a lot of factors at play, and this is just one of them. But if you want to say that we don't get emails saying that they've changed their mind, then I'm going to have to disagree with you, buddy, because I've seen them. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm unmuting you. I don't know if you were talking the entire time, but I'm unmuting you. Okay? What do you say to any of the things that I said, Mike?
I say you're wasting your time. These
cool.
people are.
All right. Sounds like you're not listening to anything that we are saying. Yeah. We're not wasting our time. Thank you for calling. Thank you for showing people out there that it's not just theistic individuals who won't listen to the points made in conversations. It's agnostic people too.
Yeah. And real quick, if I could just say, like, look, you know, hey, Mike, man, if you think we're wasting our time, no worries, bro. Like, you don't have to call in. You don't have to watch the show. I'd love it if you did. I'd love it if you'd share it out there with people that you think are making bad arguments or have beliefs that are harmful or whatever. I'd love it if you do that. But you know what, man? That's okay. If you don't want to take part in this conversation, ain't nobody here going to force you, man. But I absolutely think the reasons are stacked up on the justification for continuing to do this until I just can't anymore. So I'm gonna keep doing it.
Let me add on to that one, Elliot. Something that I noticed about I could feel Mike's frustration with probably having these conversations a lot in his own life. Now, I didn't get a chance to ask you this, Mike, and I probably shouldn't have hung up on you so quickly, but you weren't moving. You just had your ideas. I wonder if your approach to speaking with people who believe in hocus pocus, goblins, ghoulies, ghosts, and stuff, I wonder, and gods, last but not least, I wonder if your approach has something to do with why you feel no one will make will move on their positions. Because I can tell you that if you come at somebody with too much aggression, you're not going to you're going to go on the defensive rather than be receptive to information. I'm inclined to be a rather passionate writer when I write my alleged legal writings, and I always have to dial it back because I'm just going to piss someone off if I come on too strong. All right. So, shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right. We've got Steve. Steve is a guy calling from Nebraska. And Steve's question is, are the hosts familiar with the wow signal of the terrestrial genetic code? unquote, paper published with apparent intelligently designed rhythmic pattern. Steve, you are on AXP.
Yeah, mathematical pattern.
Sorry. Sorry about that. You are on AXP with Secular Rarity and Johnny P. Angel. I'm not familiar with it. SR, how about you?
I wasn't. And when I saw this in the queue and I went and looked it up, and then when I went and looked it up, it sparked a memory. A little bit of this. I'm not terribly familiar, but I have heard something about this in the past. But so yeah, like I'm definitely not an expert on it. There are people that could have a lot more information. But what about it particularly is interesting to you?
Give us the elevator speech. What is it?
Exactly.
And why is that important to you?
Sure. Yeah. Well, about 10 years ago, a couple of scientists published their discovery of this apparent intelligently designed arithmetical or mathematical pattern in our genetic code that depicts the symbol of an Egyptian triangle as well as the number 37 embedded in our genetic code. And how that message gets conveyed is, geneticists can sufficiently define 8 of the canonical amino acids by the composition of their codon's first and second base nucleotides. And then the nucleon sum of these amino acid side chains is 333, which would be 37 times 3 squared. And the sum of their block nucleons, which is their basic core structures, 592, which is 37 times 4 squared. And then the sum of the total nucleons is 925, which is 37 times 3 squared. And when you factor 37 out of this, it results in 3 squared plus 4 squared plus 5 squared, which is a perfect mathematical representation of an Egyptian triangle. So what do you guys think if there's a message in our genetic code of an Egyptian triangle and the number 37?
Steve,
what do you guys think of that, if that works?
Did you possibly, and I won't fault you if the answer is no, trust me, but did you possibly hear some of the previous callers today that were discussing all of these intricate math, connections and connections through language and specific dates? And did you hear any of those calls? Yes or no?
I'm sorry, I joined the show.
That's okay.
No, that's fine.
No. Okay. That's totally fine. And the reason I wanted to say that is because I wanted to make sure we were all on the level here. So what I'll say is we have had a couple of people today specifically that have called in with this theme. I don't know if there's something in the water or what, but it doesn't matter. Because it's kind of interesting, I think. And basically, kind of what Johnny and I were saying to those folks, and I think it applies here too, is humans have this incredible ability to find insane patterns, and not just find insane patterns, but also develop intensely super cool backstories for the existences of those patterns, despite the actual truth of those backstories or patterns, right? All of the stuff that you were just saying does seem kind of cool, right? If, big if, which is, if it is actually true, if there is some method that we can utilize to help us determine what is real here and what is just a coincidence, right? And so ultimately, it seems to me that this is kind of in that same boat. And when I'm just looking at, and again, believe me, man, I said from the beginning, I am not an expert on this. There could be some very basic information about this that I'm getting very wrong, but it appears that the paper that you're talking about was referencing a signal that SETI received in 1977. And that these researchers
that's what the paper...
That's what the WOW signal is, right?
No.
That's a different.
He's talking about something else.
Subject.
Yeah.
That was a radio subject.
No, hang on,
because
I I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. You're talking about the WOW signal of the terrestrial genetic code.
Okay.
An article by Dr. Vladimir Sherbeck and Maxim Makakov. Am I wrong on this?
Right.
That is based off, that paper is based off of that signal. And what they do is they take that signal and they then find other similarities throughout other things like our genetic code. They use this particular pattern to then show that genetic code in and of itself has this intense flexibility, and you could input all kinds of other so all of this comes from this pattern that was discovered in 1977 by SETI. I just want to make sure I'm right on that, because if I'm off on that, then everything else I'm thinking.
The SETI signal in 72 was a radio signal, and what this paper is a signal that's in the genetic code. They took that signal that was discovered by SETI, and they then compared it to the genetic code and said that signal and this code have intense similarities.
I found if this
please help us.
We're talking about the same thing. I found a website talking about it. Obviously, this is not how you do scientific research. People.
No. This is all on the fly, guys.
You don't hire a supposed lawyer to do any of this stuff. But as I read this website, pandasthumb.org, whatever that is, design signals generated by targeted manipulation. There is another more serious objection to Sherbeck and Makukov's method, which they don't mention. It works frequently only by a trick. The amino acid proline does not fit into the scheme, so the authors modify it. To do so, they formally remove an H atom from the side chain of proline and transfer it to the secondary amino group, and they have it to figure. This makes proline the primary amino acid. The purpose of this operation is to formally standardize the basic structures of all amino acids, as authors mention. This is because proline is the only secondary amino acid in the genetic code. But standardizing means nothing other than purposefully changing facts to introduce the divisor 37 through the back door. In contrast to other amino acids, the molecular weight of the proline basic structure 73 cannot be divided exactly by 37, yada, 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 yada. It goes on and on and on. And basically what it is they monkeyed with the numbers.
Yes,
to make it fit.
That's why I wanted to make sure that I was right in the basis of comparing it to that signal, because even though I hadn't looked further into that like you just did for us, which I very much appreciate, I thought that was going to be what we discovered, was that they had this signal, they monkeyed around with some other data, and then said, look, they're the same.
Incidentally, I'm not reading this at all. Incidentally, it is not surprising that in the numerical cosmos, which functions under certain rules and laws, certain order patterns like Egyptian triangles, golden triangles, Fibonacci numbers, ascending numerical sequences, prime numbers, etc., can be found, which as brute facts neither allow an explanation or even demand one. And then, I mean, unrelated to me just coming up with that off the top of my head, I found a website that has more. Yeah, pandasthumb.org archives genetic code WOW signal. It sounds like what it is again, our old friend from today, pareidolia. Or maybe there's some other numerological thing.
Gotta be.
I appreciate...
Numerodolia?
Yeah, numerodolia. Steve, it sounds like... It sounds like there's something interesting going on here. And it sounds like maybe some additional information. You should research it. But it sounds like just the fact that they found some connections between things in this paper doesn't mean that those connections actually exist, and that there's not naturalistic explanations for those connections if they do exist. So certainly worth looking more.
Well, anyways, it's a great paper worth reading. It's the WOW signal of the terrestrial genetic code. It was published in Icarus. I think
definitely something to look further into, I think, Steve.
Steve, is this the reason why you believe in God?
Yeah, it's too much to discuss.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Well, I mean, how do I know it's a particular God that put it there? It could have been panspermia by extraterrestrials.
Sure,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
a good point, Steve.
I mean, it proves a higher power to me than we human beings. We're not the the highest power in the universe, but it doesn't prove anything more.
It doesn't even necessarily prove that a so-called higher power exists. It just means that there are connections between things that have numerical relations to each other, and it could just be a function of physics. And you could say, well, who made the function of physics? And it could be like, well, in every other instance where physics doesn't work this way, and it doesn't lead to chemistry behaving this way, we don't have intelligent creatures that can look at it. It could be the Celestials during the first host when they visited the Earth, that they started messing with the human genome and creating the deviants and the Eternals, as we all know. It could be that.
Ancient astronaut theorists have come up with a bunch of theories here about ancient astronauts. So come on, if you don't know that.
But message received, Steve. This is interesting stuff, and I think going through the process of figuring out why this is a something or this is a nothing is a great exercise of skepticism for anyone. And I'm not saying that you believe because of this, but I wanted to know why you believe. Do you believe in the existence of a supernatural realm, Steve? Independent of this.
I don't think there's a way to prove or it's not a falsifiable or verifiable theory. I mean, I don't. It's kind of meaningless to me if you can't prove or disprove something.
Okay,
it doesn't really have a meaning to me.
And I can certainly appreciate that position. Our call screener puts you down as a theist. Do you believe in the existence of a God?
I believe in there could be many gods. There could be no God. There could be. I can't. There's no way for me to know for sure.
Okay, there could be no gods, right?
I mean, it could be. I would say agnostic, probably more is what I am.
If you had like are you more convinced that a God exists, or less convinced that a God exists, a God or gods, any supernatural stuff?
God, I mean, I've had you were talking to that guy who was on ketamine earlier.
Sure.
And I've had out of body, I've had personal experiences. I've had an out of body experience. I was 13 years old and I hyperventilated and held my breath and passed out. And then I felt my body lifting out of my body and I saw this light and went back in. But maybe the brain does funny things when it gets deprived of oxygen. I don't know what to make of that. But I mean, it kind of made me feel like a certain oneness with the universe, kind of a feeling, a spiritual type of a feeling. But that's just a personal experience that I had.
Sure, I have.
It didn't lead me to a particular deity or anything crazy like that.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say crazy. Sorry, I don't want to offend you out there.
We get what you're saying.
You sound like you're a pretty reasonable guy, Steve. What you're saying right now. I mean, I've had experiences of my own, and that I felt a oneness with humanity and existence. And
of course.
Continuation from beginning to end and beyond, and either on or off substances that I would never admit on air I've ever done, because why the hell would you do that? But I've certainly heard stories from friends who have had those experiences, and they're open to all kinds of stuff. But who can know? But I think, would you agree, Steve, that the time to make an affirmative claim that a supernatural type of reality actually does exist is when you've been, when you have sufficient evidence to establish it, and not before, right?
And that's an extraordinary claim too. Once you make a claim, the burden of proof is on you making that claim. So I'm not going to make that claim, because that puts a lot on on me.
Yeah.
To have to prove it.
I'm in the same boat. Like we said earlier, I don't believe in God, but I don't think God doesn't exist. I strongly suspect that God doesn't exist, but I wouldn't go that far, because I don't think I know enough. I've seen through time and space and relative dimensions in space. I haven't done any of that stuff. I'm just a regular guy. So rather than make that bold claim, like you're saying, it's an extraordinary claim. Back off.
Yeah.
What can you say? Well, I haven't seen enough. I have questions, certainly. I appreciate your call, Steve. SR, any other thoughts you want to have with Steve?
Just that, man, seriously. I feel like you are on the right track. And I always love to say this, which is just because somebody is a theist, just because somebody is a believer in a deity or they're supernatural, doesn't mean that we're not on the same side and on the same team. I don't know much about you, Steve, right? We just started talking, but the mindset I feel like you have laid out for us today is one that means if you are presented with good evidence, you will evaluate it honestly, and you will take it on board and adjust your views accordingly. And I think that is the mindset that will make the world a better place. And I think time and time again, when we find those people who also are in that boat, we ought to let them know, you're one of us, bud. You are right here with us. You are on our team, because the more of us that have that mindset, the faster we're going to get to a better world. And that's, I think, what we're all going for. So yeah, thank you, Steve. That was a great freaking call, man.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on. You guys have a great day.
Yeah, you too, Steve.
Yeah, you too, man.
As you're going, if you're digging into that stuff and you find some more information about that WoW business,
call us back.
Yeah, call us back. I want to hear more about it.
Yeah, it'd
Certainly.
be cool.
Send an email if you got some more stuff. Send it to tv@atheist-community.org. Well, the prompt for this week, why do people really hate atheists? Get your answer in the comments. I might read it at the beginning of next week's episode. Thank you, Jimmy Jr., for being our backup host. And really did appreciate you being here just in case. What was your favorite call?
Oh, man. You guys had a lot of math calls today, an oddly mathematical show today. I think I like the guy who liked math and grammar.
Yep.
Because I think he's going to walk away with a lot of research he's going to have to do. And I hope he does it. I hope he does it. I hope he brings back his findings. And maybe he'll call Talk Heathen and talk to me on June 30th. Thanks for having me, everybody.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, brother.
Got to do a show with you. SR, final thoughts.
Man, I always love doing this. You know, like I said at the beginning, I always love being here. I get that there are some people that say, man, you could do something better with your time. You know, 2 hours on a Sunday could be more well spent in other areas. And I'm open to evidence that would convince me of otherwise. But currently I am so firmly in the belief that being here is one of the best things I can do with my time, man. And so I'm really glad. I'm glad that after a little time away, a little vacay for you, a little relaxation with the puppers, you came back on and I was here, man. It was a good freaking time. I hope you come back again soon.
I think I probably will. I'm probably back in rotation. Yeah. I've been doing all kinds of stuff. Like I said, eagles, snakes, but. One thing I want to say is I had a friend recently whose not quite 2-year-old child died of childhood leukemia. And this friend is a non-believer and hosted a funeral, and for the rest of the family did it in a Catholic style. And it was heart-wrenching to watch, knowing that they like let water off a duck's back, but we had talked about it. What's the lesson to be learned here? How is the world a better place because this little kid died? It isn't a better place. There isn't always a meaning for suffering. Sometimes there's just suffering, but it highlighted for me the point that I was saying before to our previous caller who doesn't see the point in what we're doing. All we have really is each other. The world can be a cruel and indifferent place. There are diseases, there are storms, there is just the natural course of life and its end. And how we choose to spend the time that we have can make a huge difference in how we can appreciate that life. And so my thoughts and prayers go out to my friend who's going through that, whose life is forever changed, and it is not for the better.
Yeah.
What kind of God could exist? What kind of God that's good created a soul to be born to this child, right? To die at 23 months old. It is sick. It is not possible, I don't think, for God to be good and to allow this to happen. So at best, God is indifferent. At worst, God is a disgusting monster. But more likely, it's just, as we said to each other, it's just physics. And sometimes physics is cruel. So let's be kind to each other, both people we agree with and people we don't. So, all right. Do we want to show crew one last time? Let's be kind to those crew people.
Yeah, I'm always down to show the crew, mainly because if we don't, they will yell at us. They will.
They're falling fast. There's only 3 of them now. Hey, folks, thank you for tuning in to AXP. Thank you for the crew for making it happen. Thank you, SR, for carrying me throughout this entire episode. And I will see you soon, and we will all see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
What will it take for you to start opening your eyes, to start questioning the bullshit everyone around you buys? You think it's any of your business what goes on between my thighs? I wonder when we'll be rid of your eyes.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.